It's time to go to Globe Life Field in Arlington and check in with our own Alex Weiner.
Sweet.
Smiling after a 9-1 win. Alex, did even you act surprised? Or, sorry, not act surprised. Were you surprised even by the results of tonight?
Well, I am a tremendous actor, as you know this much, but
from LA.
Surprised? I mean, that's true. That's true. I mean, anytime there's a 9-1 game in a World Series, that's not necessarily what you're expecting, especially how close last night's game was. But man, what an unbelievable bounce back performance for a team that, they've come back before. The Answerbacks, they came back from down 2-0 and 3-2 against the Phillies. We know all of this. But to do it in the World Series after losing a game it was unlike any loss that they've had in this postseason, to lose a game where they were winning late and it just didn't happen. It was a huge performance. I mean, to get that out of Merrill Kelly, to get that out of your offense, which needed a huge game like this after it's had a bunch of good, not great, kind of okay games. They were sort of playing the greatest hits tonight, as far as Moreno home run, bunting all over the place, guys running, kind of getting hits from everywhere in the lineup. So, that was a tremendous, tremendous win for the Diamondbacks to go back and get home field advantage back.
Walk us through what made Merrill Kelly so dominant tonight. What do you think he was doing that was so effective against this Texas lineup that was the best offense in the American League all season?
He was darting it. I mean, the accuracy, the command that he showed was just terrific, and he was executing his pitches. All of his pitches for the most part. I mean, he got, I think it was 22 called strikes and 10 whiffs. And so just a Rangers offense that, you mentioned is great. And we saw last night that, a bunch of their guys are really dangerous, could change the game with one swing. But he just was avoiding barrels all game long, except for the one Garver home run, which wasn't even on a terrible pitch. I believe it was a sinker that was cutting low and in, the kind of a borderline strike that Garver just kind of golfed out of there. But other than that, and maybe one other mistake pitch that ended up being a deep fly ball, he was pretty picture perfect. And when Kelly has his command going like that and he's able to use all of his pitches, he's pretty dang hard to hit.
We've been asking the callers this tonight, and there's so many different angles that we're going to touch on individually, but I just kind of want to go wide view. For you, what was the biggest storyline from tonight?
Merrill, I would say. I mean, the offense was great. I mean, it's definitely, and on most days when you have 9 runs on 16 hits, which is the most any team's had this postseason.
Yeah.
It's more hits than the Diamondbacks had when they scored 11 runs against the Dodgers that game in game 1. That was huge. They got hits from 10 different guys in the lineup. But the way that Merrill was able to give them depth, give them length on a day where, last night they had to use Kevin Ginkel for 28 pitches and Paul Sewald eclipsed 20 pitches. They end up losing in extra innings. To give those guys the night off by being so good and letting your offense kind of, have opportunity after opportunity to break the game open, and then they eventually did. It was Merrill's night.
Ketel Marte now holds the record for the longest hit streak in a postseason career, and that's 18 games now. It's every game he's played in the postseason in his career he's got a hit. Is that something that matters to him? I'm sure it's great. It's a nice accolade, but is that something he's thinking about when he's at the plate?
He was asked about that in the clubhouse after the game, and while he's very appreciative of the honor and wants to continue it, no, not really. I mean, even in a game like today where he was 0 for 3 before, maybe 0 for 4. He was 0 for before he got his first hit late in the game and driving a couple of runs up the middle. That's not something that pops in your head there. There you're just trying to execute. Last couple of games, he was able to keep the streak going, but not the greatest offensive games for him. But that was an important couple of insurance runs to really break this thing open.
Would you believe me if I told you that Tommy Pham is in the same company as Albert Pujols when it comes to 4-hit games in a postseason?
No, I mean, because it's pretty incredible to have 4-hit games in the postseason, not to mention to do it twice. I mean,
in one run, yeah.
Nobody has, I know, in one run, nobody's had 2 4-hit games in one postseason run since 2021. It was Kike Hernandez and Eddie Rosario. So it's another huge accomplishment. It hasn't been the most steady postseason offensively for Pham, but monster game against the Dodgers. Yesterday, big home run. And then today, 4 hits and, kind of doing it different ways, spring the ball the other way, kind of going with the pitch and then lining one up the middle. Yeah, another huge day.
Talking to our D-backs insider, Alex Weiner. He joins us live from Arlington after Game 2 victory for the Diamondbacks, 9-1 in this one. Torey Lovullo kind of made his first managerial decision, I think, that blatantly went against the stats and the analytics by playing Alek Thomas, the hot bat, in center field tonight, even though they were facing a lefty starter in Jordan Montgomery. Were you surprised that he did that to begin with, and then apparently it paid off glowingly because he had a couple of hits?
Yeah, it's one thing where, and he explained this before the game, is that Thomas had started against Jordan Montgomery before this season, and they went back, they reviewed those at bats, they liked what they saw, so they put him in there. Lovullo mentioned wanting more defensive coverage out there, just based on where they were at with the pitching, how much they needed at a Merrill, and just having sort of that safety blanket of knowing you have AT in center field and Corbin out and right. So, the reasoning all made sense. That said, they didn't do that against the Phillies. So, I was thinking maybe they would kind of do the same thing and have Revere start. Didn't end up going that way. And yeah, a couple of hits for Thomas, but then Revere comes in and drives in a couple of runs on a hit anyway. So it was just everybody's night. But yeah, the decision paid off.
I think it's obvious that the offensive approach was far improved in comparison to Game 1, but I just love these two stats in particular. In Game 1, or I don't have the Game 1 stat, I'm sorry, but in the Game 2 tonight, they had 8 whiffs as an offense. So only 8 times they swung and missed. The first time it being in the 5th inning, I believe, with Perdomo on a check swing. And then the first time they struck out tonight, it was the second out in the 8th inning. It's such a stark contrast to how they approached last night than they did tonight.
Bingo. I mean, that was a huge, huge deal. I don't know if that's a process more so execution, but it just kind of I have one strikeout in a game like this. I mean, not have one until the 8th inning. And it wasn't like they were walking all over the place. Yesterday, it looked a lot different as far as a lot of the swing and miss, and just this game, they put everything into play. And Jordan Montgomery, I think he had 2 whiffs in his outing.
Yeah.
Just consistently putting pressure on the defense. And then eventually, it's not like they were crushing a ton of home runs. They hit 1 home run in this game, but by putting that many balls in play, sharp ground ball up the middle gets through, Flair gets through. Sharp ground ball to the left side gets through. That Longoria one comes to mind, where he drops a bunt down, which was crazy to watch earlier at bat. And then the third baseman, Josh Young, comes in, and then he kind of punches one right past him on a ball that maybe Young should have knocked down, but he didn't because he's a little bit closer. And those are the little inches that matter in this. So, it was a different, again, like when I say greatest hits, they sort of did a little bit of everything offensively. That kind of led to an avalanche late in the game.
Our D-backs insider, Alex Weiner, joins us live from Arlington after Game 2. And Alex, with you being on the road for these games, can you compare for us the crowd volume, the environment that there was in Texas compared to what they experienced in Philadelphia, and how important a game like this offensively is for the Diamondbacks to silence that crowd?
Yeah. Well, it's different. Philadelphia is outside, and this is an indoor, ballpark, retractable roof and all, but the roof is closed for both of these games with weather outside. So that changes it a little bit. It was one of those where it was maybe a little bit less consistent noise, but the pops were really loud. And yesterday when Seager hit that ball, I mean, that was about as loud as we got to see this postseason. I mean, Torey said that was the loudest crowd roar he's ever seen, which is he's been to a lot more games than I have been. So that was pretty impressive to hear about. Tonight they were completely taken out of it for the most part. I mean, early Montgomery gets out of a couple of, early innings, gets that ground. That double play was about the loudest I heard them early in the game. And then the Garver home run, but really not much to cheer about. And it was crazy because there's a section with D-backs, front office and family and all that kind of stuff. And they were chanting, "Let's go D-backs." And it was loud enough for the entire stadium to hear it. Wow. And sometimes when that happens, from road fans, getting a chant in, you hear boos, you hear this, the stadium puts on background noise to kind of, quiet it down a little bit, but none of that. They just let them go. And so for a little, few minutes of this game, it was just "Let's go D-backs" just echoing throughout. So that was pretty crazy to see.
That is crazy to see and to hear about. Alex Weiner joining us from Globe Life Field in Arlington. So now this series comes back to Arizona. Would you say the momentum is on the Diamondbacks side just based off of the win tonight?
Yeah, but you would say the momentum was on the Rangers side after the win last night. So the thing about momentum is you got to keep it. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge win to take the split here. Give yourself, it's a much easier task to go back home 1-1 than it was, down 2-0 like they were against Philadelphia. And they have control of this thing now. I mean, this is exactly where you want to be in. They probably could have been up 2-0, but you never know. Maybe they don't come out the same today if they win last night. You never know these things. So, but yeah, this is as big of a statement win as you can get from one team kind of dominating the other. But there's a day in between. It'll be Brandon Pfaadt, who's been terrific, especially at home this postseason, against Max Scherzer, who's kind of been there, done that. It's a fascinating pitching matchup between a rookie and somebody who has so much experience that Scherzer has, and so we'll see what we get.
Yeah, I was comparing their stuff. I mean, their fastballs are pretty similar velocities. They both one throws a slider, one throws a bit of a sweeper. The changeups are similar velocities. I mean, Max Scherzer was Brandon Pfaadt on the Diamondbacks. What was it, 15 years ago at this point? So it is an interesting one. But Scherzer is coming back off of an injury. He just started pitching again on October 18th, 10 days ago. He's had 2 outings. The first was 4 innings. The second was 2 2/3. He got roughed up in both of them. He's already given up 7 earned runs in less innings than 7. So how long can they realistically go with Max Scherzer? And is this essentially going to be a bullpen game for the Texas Rangers?
Not on a bullpen game, but it's certainly going to be one where they lean on the bullpen pretty heavily for kind of the second half. Like not like traditional bullpen game, like I always think of as sort of like the bullpen gets most of the innings. That might not be the case. It depends how it goes here. But you're right. He hasn't thrown a ton of pitches. He hasn't gone very deep into games yet. He just came back. So, it's going to be a thing where, and especially in game 4, where it's not totally obvious who's going to start for either team. So that's going to be something to watch, is just how deep does Brandon Pfaadt go? How deep does Max Scherzer go? And what kind of pressure can each offense put on the opposing bullpens with a bullpen game essentially coming up? The Rangers have more long relief options potentially for games 3 and 4. We saw a bunch tonight. Andrew Heaney got some work. Dane Dunning got some work. Martin Perez got some work. These are starting pitchers that they're using as bullpen arms to kind of give them some length back there. And they have John Gray, who we saw in game 1. So the Rangers have more guys who can give them multiple innings. But yeah, that'll be a big storyline for these next couple of games.
All right, before we let you go, because we know you're a very, very busy man, and the grind continues as soon as tomorrow. What are you going to remember about your trip to Dallas?
We'll see if it's the only trip to Dallas, but I mean, it's just the baseball games. I mean, 2 incredible games for very different reasons. I mean, last night was just, unbelievable. The back and forth early, Diamondbacks taking control, and then sort of the late heroics from Texas. And then tonight to see Merill do what he did, and then an offensive performance like that. I mean, it's been cool. And so I haven't gotten to do much sightseeing in Dallas. It's not like Philadelphia where I was staying downtown and was able to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a different environment. But the baseball so far in this World Series has been terrific so far. So let's hope for more of that.
Look, in general, I always love to hear that you're having a good time wherever it is you're going, because it's very hard to get the enjoyment out of the where you're going when it's a work-related trip. So I'm just happy to hear that you're always having a good time when you're going to all these places. Alex, as always, thanks so much. Safe travels back here to the Valley, man, all right?
All right, thanks, guys.